Hello, friends, and welcome to today's episode of the Solving for Joy podcast. I am excited to be with you. Thank you for joining us for another conversation. Today, I get to welcome my dear friend, Dr. Manuela Powell, who is a former cancer surgeon and is a physician coach. She has a company called Doctors Pivot, and she helps physicians and others pivot in their lives and start and support new businesses. She's also a mom of two boys and an amazing dancer. Ballroom dance is her specialty. She is no stranger to solving for joy in creative ways. And I'm super excited to have you here, Manuela. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to talk to you, Christy.
I knew that we were going to be friends from our first introduction. Thank you, Melissa Parsons. And I'm so glad that you joined us last year for the Physician Coaching Summit. It would not be the same without you there. I know, because I know you, that there is no shortage or of familiarity with joy in your life. So I would love just to talk to you about your relationship to joy and kind of how that through line intersects with your choices professionally and personally.
Mm. Good question. I think it's interesting because, funny enough, the way I found more joy in my life was by realizing that my entire purpose on this planet, I decided, was to feel emotions. That was it. That is the whole point that I feel like all of us, but me in particular, as my personal belief that that's what we're here for. So once I started to accept all the things that are not super positive, I started feeling also more positive emotions. So by sometimes being like, you know what, I'm sad now and this is the season that I'm going through or something like that, it made me feel whenever the good stuff would come, it felt so much more intense than before.
That is such an important piece of wisdom. And in thinking about that, I just had this image of like, if your front door is closed, then nothing can come in, right? But if your front door is open, then everything can come in and you can usher what you don't want to keep out the back door, right? But you can't be
Mm,
a closed system not feeling.
yeah.
So I'm thinking about like feelings being welcomed into a body mind system.
Yeah, I had that thought the other day. I was having my nails done. It was the most random thing. It was around Christmas, so it's like Christmas music, which, by the way, I absolutely do not stand. I am a massive Grinch. Talk about joy. I cannot deal with that. But I was there, getting my nails. I had my Kindle and getting my nails done, and something had happened. I can't even remember what it was, but it was something that made me really sad. And I was
Yeah.
just in that moment of like, oh my god, like what am I going to do? And then I started thinking, thank you for giving me, for having like just like so much gratitude for feeling. I'm crying in the nail salon, and I'm like, I hope nobody's paying attention to me. And I was like, I think I've ascended now. Like, I'm just like feeling grateful for feeling this crappy. Like, I don't know what's happening. So I don't know. I felt like that was a moment that, okay, I was like, this is important that I'm feeling this right now. And sure enough, right after, something really good happened. So, we can't not feel bad emotions. That's not like when you take an antidepressant, obviously everything is just not just the depression, right? And not bashing them at all. I think they're very useful, but just it's a thing that does happen, right? When we do those things. So I do whenever I feel pain, I always think, you know what, I'm always a different person at the other side of the pain. So let me have it. Let's go. And it's gonna be great once this is
Yeah.
over.
Yeah. Yeah. I willingly enter the fire of transformation. I heard you say, that you were feeling gratitude for feeling sad. And for some listeners, they will immediately get that and be like, oh, yep, I've been there. I know exactly what that's like. And it's a really nourishing feeling. And others will be like, what in the hell are you talking about? Like, so I just want to name that this is not a decision to feel grateful or a forced gratitude. It doesn't sound like you were, urging yourself toward gratitude for a difficult feeling prematurely, but more that
No, I was actually
gratitude
surprised that that
arose
happened.
spontaneously,
Yeah.
right? Like
Right.
you just have a
Yeah.
broad enough perspective, a wide enough open lens that you understand this wave of sadness is part of my human experience. And it is one sound in an orchestra of human experiencing. How lovely
Yeah.
that I get to
Absolutely.
hear the
Yeah.
cymbals. you know?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I was surprised. I was not absolutely not wanting it at all. And this whole thing happened in the, I don't know, 15-minute, interval that I'm just like, oh, I'm sad and I kind of want to cry. And then I was like, oh, I'm so thankful. I was like, oh, what's that? And then I was like, oh my gosh, everything, so many emotions going on right now. I don't know what's going.
So your mission became to feel all the feelings.
Yeah. And sometimes I'm like, ooh, that is crazy.
Yeah, what did that inspire you to move away from, and what did that inspire you to move toward?
I think I had I grew up in like there you have no reason to be sad. You can't be sad. What are you crying about? Like that kind of stuff. And so, the negative emotions like that you're not supposed to be feeling that. And I think when I started coach training or even before that when I started the personal development whole, journey of the who am I and all that, which very cliche, it happened when I was 40. But I started noticing that, like I'm not sure that those emotions should be repressed like that. I think they have their role. And I had 3 years prior to that lost my dad to cancer, and I mean obviously was not fun. It was, and I used to say that that time that he was sick was just 22 months. I used to say that that was the happiest and saddest time of my life because I took off everything. I stopped working, and I for 8 months at least of that time just to support him, and to in our family just became so much closer, and so those were really things that I felt wouldn't have happened if that hadn't happened. And obviously it was sad because, he was suffering and all that stuff. So obviously that was not great. But I started seeing like, well, I don't know, maybe that has something, actually allowing yourself to feel the sadness is something that will be important. And also at the same time, started noticing impatience when I had this one friend, and this was a little before my 40th birthday. So it was kind of relevant to that. One of really good friends that was diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer. And I was working in New York at the time. And she called me and said, just got an MRI and I'm having surgery actually in 2 days. And I just went to my boss. I'm like, I am leaving tonight to go to Rio. And he's like, you can't. Cause I was like, well, fire me then. I was going. And I went for like just 4 days, but I got there and she was the most positive person I've ever met in my life. Like she was just one of those people that everything's amazing. And during her entire treatment, she was, everybody loved her. She would like once she shaved her head, she had like the fake tattoos that kids put on. She would throw parties and she would dress as the doctor to go to her appointments. She was seriously the best. But when I got there, when that first diagnosis came out, I grabbed her whole family and hey, just FYI, I know how she is, and I know she's gonna probably do her thing, but there might be times that she might be angry, sad, scared, whatever, and I need everybody to let her be sad, scared, mad, whatever she needs to be, because I know that people get very uncomfortable with that and they start with the at leasting, at least you got this, or at least you have treatment, at least blah blah, like all that crap that is just like if you're listening to this and you have anyone with a serious disease or something, just make sure you never say those words. Do not say at least to them. So because that is also important, and I know that that happened a couple of times, and I know that was important because she's not going to stay there. She's gonna. It's important to feel that and then move from that part. So I think that taught me a lot right before starting to notice how that would be important also for me because I kind of saw that for the patients and be like, wait a second, I'm saying that to them, but sure, I don't have a very serious and potentially fatal disease, but why shouldn't I also be allowed to feel sad whenever I'm sad?
Absolutely. We call that silver lining, you know? People mean well by it, but it is really misplaced good intention. It's one of those things that,
Yep.
you don't know why it doesn't feel good sometimes. Somebody says that to you, like, huh, seems like that should feel good, but really doesn't. And while it's sometimes true, like it is true, you can look at that, but maybe just do that inside your head for your own self. And if the person who's suffering
Yep.
through it is saying, well, at least I have resources or at least I have support, sure, absolutely agree with them, but maybe don't lead them there. Don't lead them, period.
Yeah.
Just bear witness and be loving. How did joy play a role for you in leaving clinical medicine and doing the work that you do now?
I became a mom pretty late. I was 42 with my first and 44 with my second. And I'm from Brazil, as you know. And I was living with my now ex husband in Rio. We had the kids there. And once that happened, we always wanted to come back to the US. And I haven't had worked in the US before in New York, in very stressful environments, and seeing my colleagues there not seeing their kids for the entire week. I was like, well, that's not how I want to do it. I want to be present, and I want to be able to walk them to school. I want to be able to be home if they're sick. And also I want to be able to go back around home to Rio when they're not in school. So I needed something that was remote and that basically was making my own business so that I could make my own hours. And I think having that kind of like, this is the goal. The goal is for me to be home with my kids if they're sick, walk them to school, and be able to go home on vacation. Like those were and I wanted to also still have contact with people. I didn't want to be just like, I will help people from afar. For example, I don't know, just having, I don't know, a YouTube channel, writing a book or something. No, I want to actually still be in people's lives. So coming up with those things, I'm like, I think those are the things that are going to make me happy in life, right? Because you come from, sometimes when people come to me, they're like, I'm so burnt out and I need something different. And then they bring that burnout to entrepreneurship because they don't realize that you don't have to, basically.
Yeah.
And another thing that I heard a lot, when I was looking for that was like, oh, you know what? Some people they just work because like nobody loves their work and that kind of stuff. My mom says that a lot. It was like, not everybody loves their work. You just work and like that kind of stuff. And I was like, I will die on this hill. I will not do that. I love being a surgeon and I will love the next thing that I do. I am not going to teach this to my kids. My mom even said, oh, your grandmother did this and her mom did this and blah, blah, blah. I was like, amazing. This is where it stops. I am not teaching that to my kids. I am teaching them that you can and you should actually find work that you love and that doesn't feel like work. And Monday is not, I hate it. I think those things are really important because why would you not? It's crazy. And sure, maybe you're going to have to do things some seasons in your life that you don't love. Obviously, I did not love waking up at 4:30 in the morning to go to the hospital. I did not love that part, but I did love operating and all of that. So there's a compromise. There's a level of how much of it do you want to let in. And I think for us doctors and professionals with letters after their names, I think it's very hard to sometimes to allow yourself to be joyful in your work. People always said to me, "Oh, your cancer shit must be so heavy." I mean, of course, yes, and also I was still me. I still made jokes, and I was still, ask the patient, "What song do you want to hear before your surgery?" Like all that, those kinds of things, like because why not? I mean, it already sucks. You already have cancer. You need surgery. Like this sucks already. Why would we make it suck more? Let's make it suck a
Yeah.
little less.
I bet you were such an amazing cancer surgeon to have. We talk about joy as being the convergence of meaning, alignment, and delight. So, what I heard you describe is that you had about four non negotiables in your transition to Doctor's Pivot, that it was flexible, that you saw people still. What were the other two?
Yeah, location freedom. So like basically the remote part, and
Yeah, being off with your kids, seeing your kids. Such an amazing place to start. It's kind of like a sketch. So you've got like the bones of whatever the art piece is, and then you can come in and do different versions. You can do a version that's pastel and a version that's watercolor and change up the tones. What pathways has this following your non-negotiables and the shape of this turned out for you? Like how are you turning that into your current portfolio?
yeah, so for the first 6 years, I want to say, of quitting medicine, I was a life coach for women, and I still had a lot of clients who were doctors, and people are not happy in medicine right now, as you know. So, moving from doctor to entrepreneur, there's so many things that we have no clue about that the learning curve was so steep sometimes, and there's like several different things that because you have to learn the sales and you have to learn the tech stuff and you have to look. So I feel like I made so many mistakes in those 6 years. And then I started hearing from clients that, again, hired me to be their life coach. And a lot of times we somehow started building businesses for them. And many of them would say, "Oh, you're so good at this. Like you always know the exact software, or you just, those kinds of things." I'm like, well, maybe there's something there. and, started noticing that, okay, maybe I can just help people with the entire thing because doctors don't have time to learn anything. Of course, you have the capacity to do it mentally speaking, and, but it's just like if you're still in practice, you don't have the time, or you'd rather spend your time with the kids. And because I already know how these things work, it would be so much easier for me to just do it. So that was the thing for me, to give people back their time and their energy so that you can do the things that will bring you joy, instead of sitting, after seeing patients and charting and all that crap that you have to do. Then you're like, well, I'm not going to sit now and watch a YouTube thing to figure out how this damn software, or what is the landing page, or what the heck's a CRM, do I need one, that kind of stuff. I was like, no, no, I'll tell you what you need. You tell me what you want to do, and we're going to create an offer. We're going to come up with a thing. And then that is the thing that I think so many people end up loving medicine again, with the decreased hours, because they have something different, but also they have more time to do the stuff that bring them joy, even if it's just, I don't know, sitting and doing nothing, which is amazing.
There's certainly an identifiable pattern there for me as an entrepreneur. Like, oh, yeah, I spent so many hours figuring out what tech or, how to do really basic functions. And what a dream. What a dream it would be to have somebody who has blazed that trail, who's like, come follow me. I've got this, I've got this figured out. And here are your options. I can support you in these ways. And I loved what you said at the beginning before we pressed record, because so many people who develop a entrepreneurial adventure have a thought trap that this is intended always to replace your physician income, and anything short of that is failure or is not success. What do you tell those people when they come in with that thought?
Yeah, and I that happens a lot. And what I say is, starting your baby business and then having that baby provide for you immediately is a lot of pressure on the baby. So we need to let the baby grow for a second. So if you have the capacity, of course, there are some people who just don't, because of, one of the clients I have, she's a surgeon and she needed surgery on her neck. She's like, I actually cannot do it anymore. So that is one thing. But if you can, decreasing your hours, and most of my clients would do that. They have, I don't know, they work 2-3 times a week, or some form of part-time or locums or whatever, and grow that business with a little more chill because their bills are being paid. And then you allow yourself for that to grow in a way that is not like, I need clients and this thing needs to be ready right now. And I know this because that's how a little bit of what happened to me, because we moved from Brazil to the US back, and I had a 2-month-old and a 2-year-old at the time. So not only I was learning how to be a mom in the US, not like Brazil where I had a nanny, a maid, and all that stuff, but also, like, how am I gonna start this thing and have it make money? Thankfully, I didn't have to, because I immediately found some side jobs as a medical translator, and I had real estate and stuff. So like I had something that was providing for me, and also my now ex-husband, so that I could grow that business. Because having to start and make it work immediately, that is not going to involve a lot of joy. I will tell you that. It's going to be quite stressful.
Well,
So I understand the need to leave, but a lot of times there are things you can do to still be on that.
yeah. I will reiterate that message that like premature financial dependency on an early stage business is a little bit of a trap.
Yeah, and another thing that I would suggest, if you're listening and you like, no, but I might really need to leave, I can't. I had my share of jobs that I was like, I need to leave. This is horrible. And what I would do is to think, okay, what I would bring a little bit of a left brain. I'm usually very much, let's use the right brain for everything. But this one was like, okay, why would I stay? And a lot of times, let's start with, I have a salary. This gives me money. So
Benefits,
I pay
insurance,
these, all of that, right? So I have that. And like obviously then there's the, is this enough, right? If it's a full-time job and you can't do anything else, maybe not, but is there a way for you to then get decreased hours or whatever, and be like, okay, why am I doing this? Well, I'm doing this because I want to create this other thing, and this will allow me to do that in that way. Just coming up with whatever helps you to think, so that you don't, every single day that you have to go to that job, you're hating everything, like there's a reason that I'm here. I know it kind of sucks, but and again, if you're in an abusive environment and all that stuff, like that's not it, right? But if you just have a job and like, I'm sick of it and I don't like it anymore and I want something different, it does help to have that, if you can start building the thing in parallel to that. And that's why my whole business is like, yeah, I'll do things for you. You don't have to do anything other than the actual things that you have. For example, if you have a podcast, you will have to get the microphone and talk into it. But other than that, you probably don't have to do anything else. Or if you decide to be a coach, and yes, you have to go to the sessions and talk to the clients, but everything else, I'll create all the packages and the email workflows and all of that. And you don't have to, waste your time doing that. So it's a easier way to get those things done, allowing you still to have time to do the things that bring you life and that allow you to continue to be with that job that gives you money until your new job starts doing that.
I can imagine that sounding almost too good to be true for the right person who is sitting on go, who hasn't quite figured out their offer, who is like feeling a little ick about starting up their website or their scheduling software or their money receiving software, all of that stuff. Just like zip, zip, zip.
Yeah, and a lot of time I had one of my clients, she came and she was like, "I have been trying to do this website for 2 years." And I was like, "Okay, that did you tell anyone that you're doing this thing now, that you're being a coach?" "No, no, because I don't have a website." I was like, "You don't have a website to be able to help people and for people to pay you. I promise you that." Especially now with all the AI tools and whatever, you can have a land I usually do a landing page for my clients in I don't know, 2 hours, and they have that. I was like, "Well, you have something. You don't have a full-on WordPress with every single bell and whistle you can't imagine right now, because also you don't even know your business enough to have all those things. So let's just create something." And, for the most part, you there's very little that you need to get really started and to start even being paid. So
So much of that stuff is a living document anyway. Just like you said, like you're getting to know your business and how it wants to evolve. And I guarantee you it's going to surprise you in some way. So it's nice to not have, a 5-story building built when you find out that you really just like a 2-bedroom apartment, you know?
exactly. So it helps to get to know a little bit more of what is the actual day to day. And one thing that you should also think is like, what do you want your life to be? It's not like, what job do I want to have? What do you want to be? What do you want to do? Like for me, it's like, I don't want to have to put an alarm on unless my kids are going, because I have my kids every other week. So the week they're not here, I'm like, I am going to wake up whenever I wake up, because I do not ever have calls at 8 in the morning. So
Yes.
so this was one of the things after so many years, like 2 decades of waking up so insanely early and, do call and all that stuff. I'm like, I don't wanna do that. I wanna sleep.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Balancing it out.
having those things, yeah, how do you want your life to be? What do you want that to look like? And then you go for it. Yeah, and one of the other thing that you see a lot when you start researching how to be an entrepreneur, open a business, whatever, there's all the tech bros saying, and you have to like run. And it's like, if you want to make $1 million a month, the other day I had that conversation. The guy's like, well, if you want to scale to 1 million a month, I'm like, are you insane? That is crazy. Here's why. When I see someone who's like super fit and has that amazing body, I'm like, oh, that looks great. And also looks like they spend 3 hours at the gym every day and they don't eat chocolate ever. And I want to eat chocolate every day. So I don't want to have that body, because I do not want to spend 3 hours at the gym and I don't want to not eat chocolate. The same thing with the $1 million, whatever insane number you want to put. I don't want that. I just want to have this life that I have. That's it. That's the only thing, right? So it's because I don't want to work enough to have that. And sure, you might have a chill life and have $1 million a month. Good for you. Most of the time, to get to that, you do need to hustle. And that is something that I would assume that most doctors are kind of like leaving medicine to get away from the hustle. So if you're going to get away from that and you want to come into entrepreneurship and think you have to do all these crazy things to grow immediately, like that is going to be another source of burnout instead of a source of joy.
I know that dance is a huge joy for you, and so this would not be a complete conversation if we didn't also talk about the role of dance and movement in your life. So, share a little bit about how that happened and how prioritized is it for you right now?
Yeah, so that, oh my God, I have like full body goosebumps when I was like, "Ah, yes, let's talk about that." So, as a Brazilian person, I obviously always had dance in my life, but I never really did a lot of partner dance. So, when I separated from my husband in 2021, I remember the first weekend without my kids, and I was like, I have no clue what to do with myself, because I have no friends, because I moved to a new city and with babies, and then the pandemic hit, and then I separated. I'm like, what do people do on the weekends here? I have no clue. And I live in a really cool place. I live in Austin, Texas. And I remember people coming to Austin, like, oh, where should I go? I'm like, I know all the playgrounds. That's it. I don't know anything else. So I was kind of looking for a community and also some movement and all that. And I saw whatever Facebook ad or something for the studio that was 5 minutes from where I was living, say, we are kind of like a family and we have socials and we have that. I was like, yes. I actually left my apartment at that moment and walked there. I'm like, I want to start now. So I started doing all sorts of ballroom dance like salsa, bachata, hustle, all of that. The way that that changed me as a person, because first of all, I was, I don't know, 47, 48 at the time. And I was like, well, I'm just like an almost 50-year-old mom. I have a little video that's like when I started and like 5 months later of just like even the clothes that I was wearing, I was just like frumpy. Because I was like, I am over. But then you start doing Latin dance and with this awesome teacher whose wife was in the studio. And I remember we were rehearsing for whatever spotlight we were going to do. And his wife was like, no, 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 sexier. You have to touch him like that. I'm like, I have to touch your husband like that? I don't know about this. So just being able to remember that I'm still a person who can still be sensual and God forbid sexual and all of that, it was just like, what is happening? I thought this was over. So that started a whole coming back to my body kind of thing and just like changed my life completely. And after a while, I found out West Coast swing, and that was like, okay, I'm not doing anything else but West Coast swing. And to answer the question, where does it, this is a non negotiable for my life. Like, I only not go to my Tuesday, Thursday dance if my kids need me or if there's a massive, I don't know, zombie apocalypse or something. All my friends know this. My partner has it on our calendar, like Tuesday and Thursday, like I'm not, I'm not available.
Not
And
available.
all of those kinds of things that like, I'm like, nope, this is absolutely something that I will do every week, twice a week, because at some point I was like, okay, I'm depressed. I need antidepressants. And I tried a few and the side effects were horrible. And then that's when I started dancing a lot. I was like, oh, I don't need it. I just need to go to
This
my dance.
is
And I noticed,
antidepressant.
yep. And it is. There's many studies that is not even close to the second thing in depression treatment. So I noticed when I don't go for whatever reason, there was recently like a three, I didn't go Tuesday, Thursday, and Tuesday again. And by Thursday, I was like, I am going to murder someone. I don't know what's going on. I hate everything. Life is terrible. And then I went and I remember coming back. My partner he was like, oh, and I was like, everything's fine now. I am so happy. And I, not only that, the actual going and dancing, because obviously you connect to the music, you connect to the partner, everything's great. But also just whenever I'm feeling like crap, let's put one of the songs that I like and I'm going to shake for 3 minutes and that's it. Like, there's no bad mood that
Yes.
will stay once I do that.
Yes.
So it is really, really medicinal for me, and I cannot imagine not having it. I think I would not be a sane person if I did not have that.
I love that that is your joy practice and that you're so devoted to it. And I think it is a great example for people to emulate. Not that it has to be dance, although dance is very, very strong medicine. But I just love knowing that that is one of your practices to keep yourself grounded and connected to your joy. Thank you so much for being with me, Manuela. How do people find you if they are like, I'd like to learn more about having this lady fix up my business?
Doctorspivot.com is where the information about that is. And you can find me on the social medias. Oh, it's the Dr. Pivot, the Doctor's Pivot, on the, handles and stuff, but also on Instagram, Dr. Manuela Powell. That is my personal account where they do the dancing stuff and all of that. And if you want to connect with me, I do love connecting with people. So,
Doctors is spelled all the way out, DOCTORS pivot.com. This has been such a fun conversation as I knew that it would be. And listeners, if you are needing a little joy in your life, go to your local neighborhood ballroom dancing
absolutely do
studio
that.
and see what happens. That's right. Absolutely. Thanks again for being with us, my friend. I will talk to you soon.